Reading 104 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Dr. Maurice Nicoll, Volume 3. Great Animal House, January 10th, 1948. Notes on Self-Observation. The object of self-observation, as this work teaches, is to let a ray of light into our inner darkness. The discipline of self-observation is a lifelong one, because we do not know ourselves, although we imagine we do, and because what we imagine we know is so often wrong. This state is our inner darkness, into which a ray of light must penetrate. What is the ray of light? It is consciousness. In short, we have to make ourselves more conscious to ourselves. What we are not conscious of remains in the dark. It belongs to the dark side of us. As you have heard, this work divides man into conscious and mechanical humanity. We, as belonging to mechanical humanity, need to strive to become more conscious, and we begin by becoming more conscious to ourselves, of ourselves. That is, by letting this ray of light into this inner darkness by the method of uncritical, impersonal self-observation, which establishes observing I in ourselves and begins to make us slowly objective to ourselves. This changes one's feeling of I. The observing I eventually collects round it all those I's which wish to awaken, and when this state is reached of inner rearrangement among the different I's, a temporary and substitute real I is formed, termed deputy steward. The more one studies, reflects upon, and ponders, and practices the teachings of the work, and sees through inner perception the truths contained in them, the stronger deputy steward will become. Eventually, he attracts in flashes steward from above, that is, from a higher level in himself, and behind steward is real I. Now, real I cannot appear if a man is in a state of inner darkness. If it were to, the man would go mad. Yet man was created to reach real I in himself and not to go mad. All the above is stating the inner meaning of the work from one angle. Always remember that with our limited minds, the work itself as a whole can only be stated now from this angle and now from that angle. Notice, for instance, we are not speaking of that level of consciousness called the level of self-remembering, nor that further level, the attainment of which gives us objective consciousness, with which real I is connected. We are speaking only of the necessity of making ourselves more and more conscious to ourselves. As we are identified with ourselves. That is, not conscious of ourselves. In the work sense, being identified means not being conscious, and we have recently spoken of how it is, in the interests of certain planetary forces, to keep man asleep and use him by making him identified, both with his idea of himself, that is, with his false personality, and also with every typical event, of which there are only a certain number, which recur and recur until the man awakens to this simple fact and seeks to be no longer identified with all of them. Only the acquisition of consciousness, that is, light, can separate us from the darkness of being always identified. If you become conscious that you are lame because your shoes do not fit you, you will not groan and sigh and remain identified with this useless suffering. You will observe how you walk and become conscious and begin to make better shoes. But for this to happen, one must buy leather from the merchants who sell it, and this is not easy. Conscious humanity has leather to sell, and quite cheaply. But they cannot use violence and insist that mechanical humanity should buy it, for this would be against the law that man is created a self-developing organism. Notice, a self-developing organism. To compel would therefore be against the esoteric laws relating to man and his meaning. He would be compelled to develop, and of course could not develop at all, even in his slightest intimate and significant communions, say with the stars and the sea, unless it was permitted and officially approved. everything real in a man or a woman can only grow through their own will, their own feeling, their own understanding, their own consent, their own internal perception that a thing is so. Now impressions coming from outside via the senses fall on phonograph rolls in centers and register themselves there. These rolls grow a new skin when filled, yet what underlies is still there and can speak, only most is now in darkness, that is, unconscious. They are really four-dimensional rolls. Let us take a simple example of one of the dark sides of oneself. Each of you sings your typical song or songs, but does not know it. The work says, try to observe your songs. That is all it says. Do you say you have no songs to sing? Try again. Try this time to observe yourself. Try to listen. Try to notice yourself. Try to hear what you are saying. Did you say just now that you never sing? You must be a very exceptional man or woman. You say that you are? Well, in that case, why come here, where no one is exceptional in your sense? I can assure you, you sing. And sing very well, probably. You have perhaps 2 or 3 good songs to sing, but you are not aware, not conscious of them. They just come out, and perhaps not quite into the open. In any case, you may sing them softly to yourself all day. They are always negative songs. They spring from the negative part of the emotional center, that part that we have to dig up and level and grow another crop on. Now, people do not see how these often not openly expressed songs, if for years indulged in, such as the classical song called Poor Little Me, they do not see that these songs, which are so dangerous, so sweet and so useless, constantly reinfect their inner state. They charm you to a tear. Yes, but not merely that. They draw force from you. You know that all negative emotions drain you of force. We were taught in the early days that the constant indulgence of negative states, of self-pity, complaining, disliking, the love of being unhappy, of disagreeing as a fine art, and all the rest, is just as if you were to cut an artery at the wrist and let the blood drip all day, and then say you feel miserable. Now, things exist and have power over us because we are not properly conscious of them. The more unconscious a thing, the more power it exerts on us, and the more mechanical our behavior. To bring a thing up into the light of consciousness is to rob it of its power. For this, long self-observation is needed and much patience with oneself. We observe, but not fully. Full self-observation takes time, years, 1 lifetime perhaps. You have heard how Mr. Ouspensky's teacher said that this work, which comes from an unknown source, can be called esoteric Christianity. He said that if we really understood what the Gospels were saying, we would see it is just what the work says. As an example, bearing on what we have just been saying about the dark side of us and the necessity of becoming more conscious, I will take the parable about the eye being the lamp of the body. Christ says, "The lamp of the body is thine eye. When thine eye is single, thy whole body is full of light. But when it is evil, thy body is full of darkness. Look therefore, whether the light that is in thee be not darkness. If therefore thy whole body is full of light, having no part dark, it shall be wholly full of light, as when the lamp with its bright shining doth give thee light." Here Christ speaks clearly about the importance of having no part dark in oneself. The term body being used here for the psychological body. Now, to act mechanically is evil, and to act consciously is not evil. If we were a unity, that is, single, we would act consciously. But we are not a unity, but a many, a multitude of different eyes, which we do not know, do not observe. This is darkness. So the work speaks so much about letting in this ray of light by self-observation into our darkness.